Where's my sleeve? My sleeve is here. Okay. Recording. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Overthinkers Society. I am host. I'm host, bitch. I'm your host, Suli. I make music. If you're the first time, if it's your first time coming here, welcome to this podcast where I just go down the rabbit hole, talking and thinking about loads of things deeply. Was that too long of an introduction? I don't know. Maybe I just need to start figuring out like how to properly open up this podcast. But this week is gonna be a little mini episode solo. Don't mind. I feel like I feel like I'm having a confident day today to just be able to ramble endlessly alone, which I already do most of the time. I just talk on my own, but it's kind of frustrating sometimes when I can seem to be able to craft up eloquent sentences and phrases and be able to express myself in a satisfying way, I feel like, oh, okay, I'm liking how I can seem to sound comprehensive and oh wait, I'm actually making sense. And then I turn the camera on, and then I turn the mic on, and then all of a sudden I can't talk. Maybe this is a form of a camera phobia, a stage fright. I don't know. I do get still very nervous when the camera is on, but I think I'm definitely getting more and more comfortable at it. But today I wanted to talk about. Wait, hold on. I wonder if I'm actually still recording. I need to make sure. Okay, I'm recording. I'm recording. Today I wanted to talk about laziness. A few weeks ago maybe, I asked a question on Instagram story to everybody just to ask me anything, and one of a surprisingly frequently asked question, most asked question, was along the lines of how do I deal with laziness and what do I do on days when I'm feeling sluggish. I got a lot of those kind of questions, and obviously I could have given a funny I don't know, witty answer on my next story or whatever, but I thought it's kind of worth doing a whole podcast episode about it, because it's something that I personally am still trying to figure out as well. It's a topic that I am also very, I wouldn't say passionate. I feel like passionate is the wrong word for it, but it's an area of life that I'm very eager to kind of nail down and master. And I'm sure a lot of people deal with this as well, how to deal with procrastination, how to deal with days when I'm not feeling motivated enough, how to deal with laziness. And so, let's ramble about it. Let's do this. Actually, the reason why I also decided to do this episode on laziness is because simultaneously, while I got a lot of those questions on the story, I have also personally been experiencing a lot of these slumps, if you will, lately. I would actually call it a slump, because it's kind of the box. It takes all the boxes. I'm feeling a lack of motivation. I don't feel a sense of purpose, and I can't seem to get my body up in the morning to do stuff that I know that I know for sure has to excite me. And I want it to excite me, but it doesn't for some reason. So, all that and just downright feeling lazy and just not wanting to do anything. All that just I've been experiencing myself as well in my life. And what better way to just think deeply about it, and maybe if I can ramble long enough about this, I might be able to come to a more uh, sensible conclusion, maybe. I So, the way I have discovered the world of laziness basically is actually not is actually a very recent occurrence. Uh I feel like I've had a fairly busy lifestyle growing up. Uh, my parents were very strict, especially my mom. Like Korean moms are just like super super uptight about like education and like scheduling stuff and planning out stuff. So I having my mom in that kind of uh mom group, if you will, I naturally had that kind of upbringing as well, where I had no time to rest growing up. And I think it wasn't something that I ever like wanted to like. Of course I had days when I was like, man, like this sucks, I want to just play video games and I just want to like slack off. But it wasn't something that I actively thought about like complaining about and standing up against, because I was so accustomed to it. Like just growing up, it was always like school and then come back home. uh like we have these like cram schools, like after school classes or whatever, like academies we call it, where we like study extra time for like extra subjects for exams and stuff, extracurricular activities. They weren't fun. They weren't like fun extracurriculum activities. They were just like very mundane, sitting down, reading books, taking notes kind of stuff. So they weren't exciting. And, although I did get to experience like learning different sports and, of course, occasionally hanging out with um, people in my school and like, just hanging out with some people. It was mostly very much a hustling, like studying kind of environment for me. And I feel like that all like turned around and just kind of all changed when my parents got divorced. And when they got divorced, our whole lifestyles changed. Our whole lives changed, really. um for me personally, it meant that from morning till night academy, school, homework schedule to pretty much nothing. Nothing but, school, really. When I came back home from school, then it all of a sudden meant that I had so much free time. Um, and I think that was the start of it. But I think even then, I was still very accustomed to that lifestyle to a point where I subconsciously kept myself busy doing other stuff. And doing other stuff, by doing other stuff, I mean like, still the same mundane, like studying, homework, education related stuff. Um, and it was really when I started doing this, like making music and making videos and podcasts and like really setting up a form of a career, like an independent career for myself, that I really started to realize that, oh man, there's this thing called laziness and it's like troubling me a lot. So it's it's been a fairly recent occurrence that I discovered the concept of being lazy, because growing up I just didn't have the luxury to have it. Um the more and more I think about it, though, I feel like laziness is like such a taboo. Like, it's such a taboo. It is a taboo, but it's a taboo that we fail to realize that it is a taboo. Like, it's so distilled, so deeply distilled in society all over the world, not just in Korea, but, hustle culture is such a massive thing in the States as well, and, the Western Hemisphere, that it's so big that it kind of brainwashes us to that if you're not productive, if you're not doing so-called work, then you're not really progressing with life and you're not a worthy human being. Um and it's like, it's so silly because once we say these things aloud, we realize how ridiculous this is. It's like, it's common sense. It's common sense to know that, yo, like, you don't have to hustle. You don't have to, like, work all the time. Like, you don't have to work 24/7 to feel like you're a worthy human being. We're already worthy as we are. Like, just by being as a human, just by being born as a human, we're already a worthy someone. Like, we don't have to try to do something, try to be productive, try to, like, make up for something to prove ourselves that we are worthy to be alive. It all makes, like, it's such a no-brainer when we, like, say these things out loud, but it's so silly that when we're, like, living our normal lives and just going about in our daily lives, we still go back to that brainwashed mindset of, oh, if I'm not being productive, then man, I'm doing something wrong. And I think it's that very fundamental perception of laziness that I think might be a big problem for most of us. Like, the very act of asking a question like, what do I do if I'm feeling lazy, I think implies the fact that we think there's something wrong with being lazy. But in fact, it's there's nothing wrong about it, I think. I mean, call it, justification or whatever. But I really do think, like, every single person that I've encountered in my life, every single person has some sort of, like, feels troubled to some levels, to whatever differing levels of laziness. Did that sentence make sense? Well, what I meant to say was, like, everybody, at least everyone that I've encountered, struggles with laziness to a certain extent. And, like, those, like, health gurus, like, motivational speakers, all that, like, hustling culture people, I bet they have days when they're, like, just slacking off and and eating pizza all night long. Because, I mean, that's humans. Like, we make mistakes. We slack off sometimes. We pig out and we don't do any work for a long time, and we don't want to do work. We want to like rebel. We want to not do stuff that we've always been doing. Like, we want to just, like, lay around. We just want to, like, chill. And yeah, I think I'd like to think that it's a natural thing. And, like, obviously if you've, like, I don't know, made a promise, or there's this, like, hard deadline that you must adhere to, and like it's a big promise, then like, you gotta do that all-nighter if it takes one to finish whatever work that you've got at hand. um if it's a few cups of extra coffee that you must take, then you must do it because it's a promise that you have made. But if there is an option to like not do any work when you're feeling lazy, then I'd like to tell myself, go for it. I like to tell everyone who's listening, go for it, because man, this is our life. This is my life. And like, I have made decisions in the last year or so to bring more happiness and fulfillment to myself, and I'm not gonna let this like societal brainwashy concept of you shouldn't be lazy get in the way of my happiness and make me feel unnecessarily guilty. I like to think there's also a benefit to it. It's not like you're like, oh, I'm not going to do any work for the next 3 days. Okay. And just like, that's it. You're not progressing at all. I think there's some level of benefit to it. Like a progression in the hiding, invisible progression, unrecognizable progression that comes from slacking off. I'm nodding right now, and maybe this nodding may look like I'm just trying to justify this whole thing. But I mean it. I truly mean it. I think one of the benefits is like obviously rest. Like we need rest, and I think so many of us don't realize how important rest is. I mean, at least I do. I don't. Like I underestimate rest so much until it really gets to me and I crash big time. That's when I realized, oh shit, I realized that I've been working like 24/7. It's just like work, sleep, work, sleep, work, sleep. That's it. That's all I've been doing. And I only realized that once I crash and once I'm going through a period like I'm going through one right now where I'm feeling a little bit of a slump creatively. It's like, shit, I need to like take regular breaks and let myself be lazy sometimes. Yeah. I feel like I think that's it. I don't think, you know, it's not like, in the beginning of this ramble, I was like, oh, I'm so like feeling guilty about slacking off. And then now I'm like, oh, actually, no, I'm not. It's not like I completely changed my mind, but I think the conclusion is that I want to allow myself the laziness because it's my life. Who's to say that you can't be lazy? Who's to say that you need to work 24/7? And who's to say you need to get up at 7:30 a.m. and stop working at 5 p.m.? Who's to say that? If you are in a position to, and you are, and I am, to say no and yes in your own right to things, then go for it. Like, just make up your own rules, because all these like bullshit rules that we thought were like literal laws, like personal mental laws or physical laws or whatever, are are bullshit. They are bullshit because, like, now I'm realizing nobody ever told me that saying no wasn't an option. Like, I could have said no to that intense schedule, day after night after day after night, of studying and educating myself and working myself up for like college and taking exams and getting good grades. Nobody ever told me that, you know, this is the law. You got to stick by it or else you're going to die. I don't know, you're going to be a failure. Nobody ever told me that. It was just in my head all the time because it was just the environment that I grew up in. But I can say no anytime. I can say yes to things anytime I want. And I think personal emotional anarchy, I think this is something that we need to like seriously consider letting ourselves go through, because when it comes to laziness, at least I think it's something that we can allow ourselves with. Go for it. You don't have to like figure out what to do when you're feeling lazy. If you can afford to, if you can, then laze off. I don't know what the phrasal verb is for laze, but go for it. Like, I'd say go for it. Like, watch that anime. Binge watch that anime. Play some games. Like, write journals, read books, go out for walks. Do whatever you want. Because we never allow ourselves to do these things. Like, we don't let ourselves binge watch. Like, it's a guilt action. Like, it's something that we do and feel guilty about. Like, oh my gosh, I've like binge watched that show again last night. And we do it during the night because we know we're not supposed to do, like, we think we're not supposed to do that during the day. We can't do that during work hours, because otherwise it's being lazy. But do that. Just do it. Like, allow yourself. It's our life. Like, if you want to like spend many, many hours on screen as well, like, that's also another taboo where it's like, oh, if you're like spending too much time like watching your screen, staring into the screen, playing video games, then you're wasting away your life. Bullshit. Just do it. This is part of like 21st century life. If you're having fun, that's all that matters. If you're enjoying it, if you find true joy in being on social media all the time, if you find joy in playing video games and socializing with people online for many, 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 many hours, then go for it. Because it's all about our happiness. This is our life. This is our happiness. And we know what makes us happy the most. And I know for a fact, in my own personal experience, when I like force myself to do something that I'm not feeling like I want to do for that day, then the result's going to be shit anyways. I always end up starting over. So it's just not worth it. If you're not feeling great, if you're not feeling great about what the task ahead of you, then I think it's your gut telling you that, maybe this is not something you should be doing today. Do something else. Slack off, man. Take a break. And there's no like set time. There's no like, okay, I'm going to allow myself 3 hours of slack off time. Okay, I'm going to take a day off. Okay, I'm going to take this weekend off. Like, just rest if you can until you feel better. I think we need to do that for ourselves. For our joy, for our happiness. It's our life. Yeah. Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, that's it for this week's episode. I feel like this is a little bit of a shorter one than usual, but um, you know, comes and goes, differs in time. It's nature of overthinking. But thank you guys for listening and watching to this episode. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you. Bye. That was my stomach growling. Maybe I need some food. Haha.